Okay, let's get started right now. Okay, so let's see the Gemara. Maybe I'll be more rest. I'll thank you, Monty. So look at the Gemara. Noishin al hanusa balamafuta. The halacha is if one is ma'anas a woman or is mafata a woman, that doesn't stop him from being able to marry her kroivin. Rashi says la'acha sha'anas upita es isha mutar lisa bita v'achoisa b'ima. Ha'onis v'amafata al nasua. But if someone is married to a woman and he's ma'anis her daughter or ma'anis her mother, then chayiv, then you're chayiv. So what creates the relationship clearly is not the fact that there was a biyah, rather the fact that there was a kedushin. Zok the Mishnah weiter, noise adam manusas ovev u'mefutas ovev. This halacha we had many times. A person is allowed to marry the anusa of his father. So if his father was ma'anis somebody, a person is allowed to marry that woman. I'm not sure how willing she will be to marry him, but when they read the shidduch, she might hang up the phone on the shafkin. But should she decide that she wants to marry the son of the person who was ma'anis her, she has allowed to u'mefutas ovev. Or anusas punai u'mefutas punai. Rabbi Yehuda says such a thing as aser, but anusas ovev u'mefutas ovev. If it's his father's anusa or his father's mefuta, and the Gemara will share with us that he knows this from a puzzle. Tanina laha the Tanu Rabbanan. We learned a Mishnah or a Brisa to support our Mishnah. Anas isha, if someone is ma'anas a woman, mutter lisa bita. One is allowed to marry her daughter. Nasa isha, if he married a woman, also lisa bita. Then avada, it's also for him to marry that woman's daughter. Or a minute effect, the Gemara, hanitan mina isha. You're telling me that if you're ma'anas a woman, mafata a woman, you're allowed to marry her daughter. We have a brisa that says otherwise. Hanitin min isha, which Rashi says he's merely chashud, and nechshad v'yotzal of koil. He's merely chashud to have illicit relations with a certain woman. Asher be'imo v'bitu v'achoisa. He's not allowed to have relations with the mother, the daughter, or the sister, and we'll see in a minute why. So how could you say here in our Mishnah Noishin Allah Nusa? Here it says Aser Zak Gemara, where it says Aser it's midarabanan. When it says Noishin it's midaraisa. Frank the Gemara, V'chal Heicha Deike Yisur midarabanan Tani Noishin lechatchila. If it's Aser midarabanan, would the Mishnah use a lotion of Noishin lechatchila? Because Noishin is the mashal you're actually allowed to do it. Zak Gemara Kitan Maslisin Lachamisa. So let's stop for a second. If someone is chashed to have relations with a woman, why is he also in her krayvos? The answer is because we're afraid that why is he marrying the krayvos? Because it gets him closer to them. If someone's nitting on a woman, if he marries that woman's mother, so now chances are her daughter will hang out by her house, and he's chashed to then do znus with the daughter after he's married to the mother. So therefore, l'chatchila we want to keep him away midrabanan, because it's only going to lead to trouble. Zok to Gemara, but la'achamisa, once the person that he was ma'anis, or he was mafata died, or the woman who he's cautious for died, then there's no problem with him marrying the kroivus, because there's no more chashash. As Rashi says, la'achamisa, shemeisa anusa avamufuta, t'sul lekal migzamiti. Now there's nothing to be geyser, that he shouldn't marry a woman because it's going to get him close to the woman who he wants. She's dead. Therefore, provided that the shafik can get a yes for you, provided the shafik can get a yes for you, you can marry the relative of a woman who one was ma'anas or mafata. How do we know this? The Tanu Rabbanan. How do we know that the Isser Kravis is only with a marriage, not with a bia? The Tanu Rabbanan, B'chulam namar shchiva. But all their rise, when it describes the Isser, the Torah says a lashon of or shoychav and machoisha, right? Use a lashon of shchiva. The kan nemar kicha. But over here, Dr. Rashi be'isha ve'ima who be'kroivos and their seres le'machmas ishtoi, by all of the Yisurim that are also to him, because they're related to his wife, the Torah expresses the Isser of this union with the word kicha. Nemar kicha. It says ish ki yikach es isha ve'siva. Visha lachoisha le'sikach. So we learn from there, the Isra is only once one has married a woman. So Rashi Likuchen, So Haisha Rishayna Lekuchasa. If the first woman he married with the kedushin, then chayiv al hashniya, then he's chayiv on the second woman. So if he married a woman, then he's chayiv. For instance, if he had bia with the woman's daughter, kishaba Allah. The second woman, for sure you don't need kedushin on. The bishniya lekalamemer likuchen. You can't say that the isser is making kedushin on both women. The lotavsi ba kedushin. Kedushin would never be toifus on the second of the two. So therefore, the first woman had to have had a kedushin, and the second woman, her bia becomes also. Amalei apapul abayi, sokka paput abayi, elamayata kabayachoisai by his sister, which there's no marriage involved. Dichsiv is asher yikach es achoisai basavu basimai hachanami derchichu de asar derchiva. Sorry, are you saying that if someone sleeps with a sister, there's no isser? The issue is only if he makes a kedushin on her. Amalei no. Likuchen ksivi v'Torah. Stop. When the Torah says stam likuchen, then we touch it. Haroyu lekicha. We touch it as kicha. So we're talking about marrying a woman, taking a woman and her daughter. There we can touch it as kedushin. So there we'll touch it as kedushin. But haroyu l'shchiva. But if it's the type of woman that you can't be mekadosh, such as your sister, then shchiva, then we'll interpret even the lekuchen as shchiva. Rava says, Anas Isha Mutter Lisa Bita. Where do I know the halacha that if you're ma'anis a woman, you're allowed to marry her daughter? Mehacha, you learn from a different pasuk. Ksivit says in the pasuk, Ervas bas bincha or bas bitcha loisigalei. One is not allowed to be magala the erva of his granddaughter. Habas bina dida, mashma the granddaughter of his wife, ubas bita dida, or the granddaughter of his wife through the daughter. Gully, he is allowed to be megala her erva. So that's the mashmoish of one pasuk. But the next pasuk tells us fakert. Uchsiv ervas isha ubita loisigale as bas bina this bas bita loisikach. So is it mutter or is it also? Haketzat kan ba'intin. When the Torah says dafka bas bitcha, but not that of her, that's her meaning the woman that you were honest. But kan benesuin, the pasuk that says isha bas benavas bas bita are usher, that's a woman who you were actually married to. So that's how you see that dafka, if the first woman, the relationship was through a kedushin, through a likuach, dafka there does it usher. For the Gemara, you just have two psukim. You don't know which is which. You decided to apply the isser to if the case where the woman was mukadesh first. Maybe say pumfaker. Maybe say if the first relationship came through isser, then her granddaughter's also to you. But if the first relationship came through a heter of kedushin, maybe then her granddaughter wouldn't be also. By arayos, it says the lashon of she'er b'sarehu. It's the isser is through she'er. B'nisunik she'er. When one is properly married to a woman, then her relative is called she'er. But until like a she'er, if someone's ma'anas a woman, it's not her relation. Her relatives are not called she'er. She'er is a word that can only describe the relations of a woman who you're married to, and therefore, if you're married to a woman, then her relations are also to you. But if one was ma'anas a woman, then her relations are not us. She'er? What she'er means? But the way I understand she'er, maybe I'm wrong. She'er means a relation. She'er, sorry, it's a relation. The exact type of it, I don't know. Sorry, kin. Oh, so which means a relation. The Gemara says that kin has to do with marriage. Right, so here the Gemara is telling us that. Yeah. Yeah, so here's where we know it from. Yeah. Zok the Gemara back to Rabbi Yehuda Oiser Balnusas up. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if someone was honest, a woman, it's also for the son of this person to marry this woman. Omar of Gidel, Omar Av. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. What is this for Rabbi Yehuda? The Chsev says in the Torah, Lo yikach ish as isha, as eshes aviv. And then the pasuk adds, V'lo yigala knaf aviv. He shouldn't be megala the knaf aviv. Knaf shara aviv. the hidden thing that his father saw, lo yigala, he shouldn't uncover. So that's being marba. That's telling us that an anusa of a father is also to a son. How do you know that this pasuk is referring to the anusas of him, and that's what the Torah is saying is usher to him? I'm going to just look into Rashi. Me'ilu yodakra. We know it from a pasuk that's earlier. This because it says earlier, but interesting enough, it doesn't say like the pasuk before. It says it maybe the parsha before. It's long before. If you look at, I don't have the psukim brought down in this Gemara, but if you look at the psukim, it says earlier, way earlier, it speaks about oinus. It says v'noshana ish hashoichav ima laviyanar chamishim chasif. So, if you have your art scroll, that's the psukim. Where is the pasuk of lo yikach? It's devarim chav gimel, and the pasuk of v'noshana ish is devarim chav beis. So it's much before. So it's not directly before, but since it's in the same inyan, we're going to say that's what it's referring to. If in fact it was these two psukim were back to back, I would agree with you that it's a raya that lo yigal knaf avav is referring to the woman who your father was ma'andis. But how should lo shamachlei? Yeah, it might be in the same sefer, but that's not good enough. We'll fartaich it differently. Knaf avav will fartaich not to be anusas avav. Rather, we'll touch it miboyle lechadar Adon. Domar Baranam Shmuel v'shemeresh yomim shel aviv akosav medaber. This is a woman who was married to your uncle, and then your uncle died without children, so she fell to yibam to your father. This is a woman who you're not allowed to have relations with. Umay knaf aviv. What does knaf aviv means? It doesn't mean that your father actually was boil her. It means knaf haroyu la'aviv lo yigali. The woman who was supposed to have been married by your father, because she's a shemeres yovim to him, her you cannot have relations with. Frank Gemara, why do we need a pasuk to tell us that you can't have relations with a woman who has a zikas yibum to your father? If she fell to yibum to my father, obviously she was the wife of my father's brother, so I would be usher to her anyway. So Gemara, you're right. Laver aleh bishnei lavin. There's an extra isser for this daidasai. A regular daidasai only carries with her additional daidasai, and this woman carries with her side additional daidasai and side the gala knaf of it. In fact, the Bible that I'm sorry, then it's only the daidasai, or it's chalut tzavim. There's another isser. Every woman who's a shemeres yavim, it says leisia eishes mesa chalutza. So you're right. Laver alav b'shloisha lavim. There's 3 lavim for this woman. This woman who's a shemeres yavim to your father, there's an isser out every Yevamos shuk. There's an isser outside dasoi, and there's an isser of knaf of it. V'boy you say lachamisa, or you could say even after one's father is nifter, she will be usher to you, not anymore out Yevamos shuk, because a Yevamos shuk who there's no yavim anymore, she's free. So therefore, there's an isser of knaf of it. There's also still an issue of Deidasai as well. Zog to Gemara weiter. So therefore, we have a shaila of what lo yigal knaf aviv means. According to Rabbi Yehuda, means anusas aviv, and according to the Chachamim, it means shemeres yavim of the father. Zog to Gemara weiter. Rashi tells us that we're about to learn riddles. Mishalai say the following list of items are mishalim. People would come up with this and things. We would call this redneck examples. They're redneck. They're redneck conundrums. So let's have a look at this. This can get a little bit complicated, so we'll take it slow and we'll learn it together with Rashi. Ach me'av v'lo me'im. This man is my brother because we share a father, but we don't share a mother. Who you mentioned that? Who baila? He's also my husband. Who baila the He's also the husband of my mother. Va'na barta, and I'm the daughter, the intersay of his wife. So what is that case? Omer Rabbi Bachama, the loik Rabbi Yehuda de Masnisen. So let's see Rashi. Who baila the So we're talking about Achi me'avi, my brother, whom with I share a father. Nasa as imi married my mother. So what's the case? Hanu di Yaakov onas es isha. Yaakov was ma'anas a woman, v'hoiled bas, and gave birth to a daughter. And Yaakov had a legitimate marriage with whom he had a son, Reuven. So Yaakov has two children. He has one child born out of wedlock to a woman that he was ma'anas. We're going to call her Bas. And then she had a half brother because Yaakov had a legitimate son, Reuven, who he had through Leah. And then Benasa Reuven as a Nusas Aviv. Reuven, so this is a very redneck story. Reuven then got married to the woman who Yaakov was ma'anis, who was the mother of Bas. Who Bas Yaakov married. And this daughter is now saying, Ach Mayav, Reuven is my brother because I share a father with him, who's Yaakov, but Veloy Me'ein, I don't share a mother with him because my mother has nothing to do with Reuven. V'hu Baila, the aim. Reuben is also the husband of my mother because Reuben was Reuben married the Nusas of it. Va'ana Barta the Intisei, and I'm the daughter of his wife. Right, so this could only happen through like a redneck relationship. So Amar Rami Barchama the Loik Rab Yudah the Mesnisim. This would not be consistent with Rab Yudah because according to Rab Yudah, Reuben could never have married a Nusas. Okay, now we'll get into a little bit of a more complicated case. Achu, this fellow is my brother. Ubrihu, and he's my son. So he's my brother and he's my son. This is redneck all over it, right? Achu is my brother. Ubrihu, and he's my son. Ach say Ana, I am the sister of the high Didarina Akaspoi. I am the sister of this baby who I'm carrying on my shoulder. So how does this occur? A guy who marries his daughter. So if a guy marries his daughter and then they have a child, so this child is the son of this woman, but it's also the brother of this woman because they share a father. So, I'm sorry? Because a Jew's not allowed to do this. What? He's not allowed to do other stuff.
This stuff that's allowed?
The first story could have been done by a Yid if you hold that Anusas of his mutter. But the second thing, there's no way to explain such a story happening and also following the halachos of the Torah. So we're in deep redneck territory. This is trailer park all over it. Okay. How about this following case? It gets a little bit more complicated now. I'm sorry? I don't, these are like riddles. How is it possible for someone to have A, B, C, D? I don't know why the Gemara discusses this. I do not know. Rashi says,
Art Scroll says,
to look at the Tosfos first. The very first Tosfos, Kol Elu Hamaisim Loy Mashmi Lachmin. They don't teach us anything. Ela L'Tshuvas HaTzadokim. Aha. What did the Art Scroll say, Avigdor?
like it just elaborates on that Tosfos from the Marshal to say that it's there to arm Talmidei Chachamim so they can answer people who try to pose riddles to them.
Okay, I hear. It could be it helps Talmidei Chachamim understand the family trees of people who don't follow the halachos. They have to be able to get through it. It'll help them understand the Esav's family tree. Okay, so let's go to the next case. Shalom Malach Bri. So Rashi says, Shalom Lachabni, peace to you, my son. Bas Achtech Ana. I am the daughter of your sister. So Zok Gemara Mishkachas Lahar, could such a thing occur? Ba'ovid Kechavim Haba Al Bas Bitay. A guy who's bought on his granddaughter, on the daughter of his daughter. So Rashi, a guy who has his nus, who does nus with his granddaughter, ben, and they had a son. The granddaughter the granddaughter, is the mother of this son. Ubas achoisoi, and the daughter of his sister. So if the grandfather was mazana with the granddaughter and they had a son, so then this son is this son of the granddaughter, but it's also the uncle of the granddaughter because this son is also her grandfather's child, right? So this is, like I said, very much redneck territory. What? The loy, the dalu, davla. So Rashi, this is a special riddle to entertain whom? Levnei poyalin hamashkin es asadois anishel eschidazu. Who am I going to ask this riddle to? I'm going to ask this riddle to the people who irrigate fields. I guess they were rednecks. And he said as follows: Lipoil lechu sesar pesar. Rashi hari nafel lechamchita stuma umisterisly passer. I got a good riddle for you. So if someone finds himself out in the field, let's say you have a rov who's going to be mashkiach on when they're irrigating the wheat to make sure that the wheat doesn't become chometz for Pesach. So what in the world does he have in common with these rednecks who are working there in the field? You need to have conversation. So the Gemara says you want a good thing to discuss with these goyim so that you can have something to talk about. This would be a good conversation to have with them. The high Darinahu, this child that I'm holding, in other words, my son, who bar, it's my son. Vana Baras Achva. I'm also the daughter of his brother. How does that happen? Mishkachas la'bovet kechavim haba bas benoy, an ovet kechavim who does nus with his granddaughter, but his granddaughter is his son's daughter. So let's stop here. I'm the daughter of his sister. Because what is the case? She is both his mother, but she's also his nephew, his niece. She's also his niece because her father's sister. I'm sorry. Once again. This baby's her daughter, Vana Baras Achva, and I am the daughter of his sister, because he's a sister with one of the children of the grandfather, because he's the child of the grandfather as well. Okay, now we have another case. Bye bye. Woe is to me, my ach, from my brother. So Rashi's bye means koivelasni. I'm saying oivei. Al-Achi are my brother, Shahu Avi, who's also my father. So this is my brother, who's also my father. Vahu Baal, he's also my husband. Vahu Bar Baal, and he's also the son of my husband. Vahu Baila the aim, he's also the husband of my mother. Vana Barta the Itse, and I'm the daughter of his wife. And this guy, even though he's so tightly related to this child, he doesn't give bread. He doesn't help support. He doesn't provide child support to his brother Yasmi ben Nebarti, the Yosoimim of the children of his son. So how do you have such a complicated case? Zok Gemara, Mishkachas la. A guy married his mother, and he had a daughter. So this daughter is both his sister, because they share a mother, but it's also his daughter. Then the Chazar Uba al Oisoi Bas. Then he was then Mizana with this sister, who's also his daughter. Now the Chazar Zaki, now his father, this is a family tradition. And then this fellow's father, who Ba'aleh, also had relations with this daughter, and she had children. So let's think. So she's talking about her children, right? So she's saying, my children are the people who you don't want to support. So let's have a look again at what this relationship is. So the Gemara says over here, my ach, he's my brother. Why is he my brother? Because he's also the child of my father. V'hu av, he's my father as well. V'hu baal, he's my husband because we had relations. V'hu bar baal, it's also the son of my husband because talking about the grandfather that was mizana with her. V'hu baal da'im, and it's the husband of my mother because my grandfather is the grandfather would be the husband of the father, of the mother. So Rashi goes through the cases over here. By he's my brother. Shu Avi, it's also my father. Ubaili, and my husband. Uben Baili, and the son of my husband. V'hu Bailo da'im, he's also the husband of my mother. Shahailidani me'imi, because why is he the baal of my mother? Because the fact is, I was born through a union that he had with my mother. Behind Nami dehu av. Really, it's the same thing. Bailo da'im and av is the same thing. Elafusha milu, we're trying to throw more characteristics into this relationship. So first, someone was born his mother. They gave birth, and they had a daughter. Then he was born his daughter, and then the grandfather came and was born this same daughter. Aviv Shozeh, the father of this tzaddik, who was Baal Imoy, now had znus with the granddaughter as well. Because Amr Hach Bas, so this daughter is saying, Hach Bas Shalabia is saying as follows: this man is her brother through her mother. The Gam of Viahu, he's also her father because she was born because her father was Ba on his mother. Ubaila, it's also her husband Shechazer Ubala because the case was that he lived with his daughter too. Uven Baila, this guy is also the son of her husband because Shechazer Azakan Ubala because she also had relations with his father. So therefore, you have a woman who has all these things, and he doesn't give money. When she was mazana with the grandfather, she conceived and gave birth to two children. So she's telling her father, who is also her brother, you're not supporting my two children, who happens to be your brother, because you share a father with them, and they're also the children of your children, because they're my children, and I'm your child. So these are all these relationships. Okay. Now we have another case. Okay. Now what if just ano ba'at achi? You and I are siblings. Ano ba'avuch achi. Me and your father are siblings. Ano v'imach achi. I and your mother are siblings. How do you have such a case? I'm your sibling. I'm your father's sibling, and I'm your mother's sibling. Mishkachas lo v'oivei kachavim habal imay. A guy who was mezana with his mother, v'hoiled mimena shtei banos, and he had two daughters. V'chazar ubal achas man. Then this guy went and had bia with his sister, who's also his daughter, right? V'hoiled mimena ben, and they had a child. Now the other girl who was the other daughter who was not mizana, the karile achse the ima, the sister of his mother, meaning there were two daughters born when this fellow was mizana with his wife, and then he went and was mizana with one of these two girls. So the other girl who was not mizana will refer to her sister's child, because Amarle, and she will tell him Hachi. And she will tell him the following, which is not the following. She was telling what was said before, that you are my brother. You're my brother because we share a father. You're my brother's. You're my mother's sibling because you share a father. You share a father with my mother, and you're my father's sibling because you share a father with my mother. So you share a mother with my father. So therefore, you're all these things. You're my sibling, you're my you're my mother's sibling and you're my father's sibling. Okay. Well, now we have another case. Anovat, me and yourself, b'nei achiana, we're siblings. The avuch and your father, b'nei achiana, is also my sibling. The imach and your mother, b'nei achi. We are siblings as well. In fact, this case, which is the case we mentioned earlier, is betera namim mishkachata. This actually can happen not only in a redneck scenario, this can actually happen even in a normal scenario. Kigoyin, Reuben sheyesh lo shtei banos. Reuben had two children. He had two daughters. But also Shimon b'nosav chadaminayu. Shimon married one of his nieces, one of Reuben's daughters. But also Bar Levi, and the son of Levi, so the next generation came b'nosav chadaminayu. So now Reuben has two Edoms. One of his Edoms is his brother Shimon. The other Edom that he has is the son of his brother Levi. Because Amr Lei Berei de Shimon, the son of Shimon, will tell his cousin Labar Berei, to the anicle of Levi. He will say the following. He will say as follows: Ana va'at b'nei achiana. We are siblings. Why are we siblings? Because we're the children of siblings. Why? Because our mothers are siblings, right? Because I'm a son of one of the daughters of Reuven, and you're the son of one of the other daughters of the other daughter of Reuven. The avoch b'nei achi, our fathers are also siblings, because my father is the son of Yaakov, and your father is the son of Yaakov, because he's Levi. And Ana v'imach b'nei achi, and me and your mother are siblings as well. So let's see Rashi. We are the children of siblings, meaning b'nei shtei achoyos. We are the children of two sisters. Ana v'avoch, me and your father. So Shimon's son and Levi, b'nei shtei achim, Shimon's son and Levi's son are both children of two brothers, one of Shimon, one of Levi. Right, but that's why he told Levi, Ana v'avoch, me and your father are the children of two brothers, and Ana v'imach, me and your mother are b'nei shnei achim, we're also children of two brothers. So we're cousins. So that's the different cases. Okay, let's go to the Mishnah. Hagiyaris shenisgairu bonei ima. You have a giyaris whose children were magayer together with her. So in effect, they're not related because once they get married, they're kakotin shenoyel nami. So the halach is loy choyeltin v'loy miabim. If either of them die, one brother will not do yibum and chalitza on the almana of the other brother. Afilu hayrasa shal rishon shaloi b'kedusha v'loy dasai b'kedusha. Even if one of the brothers, when he was born, the mother was Jewish already. Basheni, and the second one hayrasa v'loy dasai b'kedusha, and the second one was completely conceived and born when they were Jewish. Still, there's no chalitza and there's no yibum. And Rashi says the achva mina abba ina. In order to have yibum, it's not enough that they're siblings through their mother. The siblings through their mother creates an Israel Shazach, but it doesn't create a chiyav yibum. They have to share a father. The ger ein loy she'er ha'av. A ger never has relations to his father. The achmana avkarei kezera behema. The Torah treats the zera of a goy like the zera of a behema. Shenemar v'zirma susim zirmasa. Okay, so let's go on weiter. A shivcha whose children were nishtachar with her has the same status as if they became ger. Zokt Gemara. But now Yudan Amsa, the children of Yudan, who was an amma, she was a shivcha knainis, ishtachar, they were all freed. So this is a case of the chen shivcha nishtachar b'na'im. Shara lu Rab Acha bar Yachai lemintav noshi da'adad. Rab Acha bar Yachai allowed them to marry each other's wives without a heter of evil. Because over in Korba Lager, the Chakatan Shanoy Ladam. So he allowed these two brothers, one of them married a woman and divorced her, or had children and died. He allowed the brother to marry this same woman. Amalei Rava, so Rava told Rabbi Yaakov, how can you allow such a marriage for Rab Sheshes Osak? Rab Sheshes does not allow such a marriage. Amalei, Rabbi Yaakov answered, no, who Osak? He said it's Osak. Sharina, and I said that it's mutter. So let's drill down to understand precisely what this case was. Mina av v'loy mina aim. If they only shared a father but didn't share a mother, then kula amaloi pligi dishar. Everybody holds it's mutter for them to marry each other's wives because they're considered strangers because they only share a father, and the father's yichus doesn't count by a ger. Mina aim v'loy mina av. If they only share a mother and not a father, everybody would hold that it's also they're not allowed to marry each other's wives. Why? Because we're afraid that even though Gershon is Geyer, but if we allow these two brothers to marry each other's wives, we're afraid that by regular Eden it will be allowed as well. And that's an Israel Shazach. Ki pli mina ab uminaim. The machloikas is if these brothers are siblings and they share both a mother and a father, would it be mutter to marry each other's wives? Mandashari, the one who's mater, who's Rabbi Achabar Yaakov, says Basar Abba Shadina. We consider these sons of the father, and therefore we're not goyzer to Asher Lachlufa Bas Yisrael, because the Habnei Pelanya Karilahu. Everybody refers to them as the sons of this man, so we never are goyzer from brothers who share a father that it's also lachlufe b'bas Yisrael. Rabbi Sheshes Karilahu Nami b'nei Ploidus. Not only are they both called Reuven's sons, they're also both referred to as Leah's sons, and therefore we have to make the gzeira. Rashi says Basar Avav Shadinulei Dabelei Planya Karilahu. People are only going to be focused on the fact that they share a father. People aren't going to be focused on the fact that they share a mother. And therefore, and people are going to know that even though they could marry each other's wives, that's because Gerim, if they were conceived, at least if one of them was conceived before they became Gerim, there's no relationship. Since it was a Rosh Hashanah B'Kedusha, there's the assumption that who knows who the mothers are. We just follow the father. But Reb Sheshes holds it's also because people are going to say, these are surely brothers, they're sharing a mother. Because yet we're allowing one to marry the wife of the other. And we're afraid that we'll also allow a brother to marry his brother's wife. There are those who say, Rab Acha Bar Yaakov holds that it's even mutter for two brothers to marry each other's spouses, even if they share a mother. Umay time. What's the reason for that? Because the old Gershon is Skyer, and there's no Gzeira at all. It's not we learned. Our Mishnah. My time. Why do we not allow them to make Yibam? Lav Mishum Dasiri. Isn't it because they're Osir? So you have a right to Rab Sheshes and not like Rabbi Achabar Bar Yaakov? So Rashi, my time. Lav Mishum Dasiri, Mishum Achva. Obviously, the reason why we don't let them do Yibam is because it's Osir. Bashmina Masnisin, our Mishnah is teaching us, there's no din Yibam there, the Kaima Leh Be'eshazach, and there'll be an Isra Eshazach. That's not what the Mishnah is teaching us. The Mishnah is just teaching us that they're not brothers at all, and they don't have shaykhs to the parsha of Yibam, but by extension, Vishari La'alma, they're allowed to marry any man they want because they're not bound to anybody. There's no zika. And guess what? The inunami sharu, and our Mishnah would agree with Rabbi Acha B'Yaakov that they're even mutter to marry each other's wives after they died. In fact, the Gemara, Vakatani afilu. If you look at our Mishnah used the word afilu. Afilu hayrasa shaloisha shaloi b'kedusha, loidasa b'kedusha. You still only are allowed to do chalitza na'iba. So doesn't that tell you that it's usher to marry? If you would explain it that in fact Yibum is not allowed here because we still consider them brothers. We're geyser that these brothers aren't allowed to marry each other's wives. Hanyu de katani afilu. It makes sense why the Tana used the word afilu, and the Mishnah is trying to highlight the afagav the rishon hayrasa shaloi b'kedusha, l'idasa b'kedusha. Even though the first one was conceived when they were going, v'asheni hayrasa b'l'idasa b'kedusha, and the second child was conceived once the mother was already yours. Therefore, it's like there's two separate mothers, because one's mother was from somebody who was conceived when she was a Goya, and the other one is a completely different woman because she conceived him when she was Jewish. So you would think that there's no Isser Eshusach. Afilu Asiri, it's still also, that's what the Afilu of the Mishnah is saying. Even this, where you would have a good argument to say their mutter, are also. But if in fact they are mutter, my Afilu, what is the Afilu? It's mutter. So Gemara, the Afagav, the Tarvayu, like Dasan B'Kedusha. The Afilu is they're mutter to each other. Because even though they're both like Dasan B'Kedusha, both of these children were born after the mother became Jewish, and therefore Israel, and one might confuse them with regular children of Israel and say that these are two brothers that share a mother. Nevertheless, it's still mutter for one brother to marry the almana of the other brother. Ikadami, there are those who learn that hachi nami mistabra d'sharu. In fact, it's mistabra to learn like what we just said, like Rabbi Acha B'Yaakov, that in fact these two brothers are allowed to marry each other's wives. The katani afilu, because it says afilu. If you agree that it's a mutter like Rabbi Acha, hani the katani afilu. That's why it says afilu, the afagav the tervayu, they dasim b'kedusha, even though they were both born when the mother was already Jewish, the asi lachlufa b'Yisrael, afilu hachi sharu. So this is basically the same Gemara, but taking it from the other perspective. Aliyah Martasiri, if you want to say that one of these is considered brothers, they're not allowed to marry each other's wives, my afilu. Zok Gemara, you could say the afagav, the risha, the rasa shaloi b'kedusha, the dasa b'kedusha, v'asheni the rasa v'ladasa b'kedusha. You might think that they're mutter. So at the end of the day, from this Mishnah, you don't have a raya. You can learn that these two brothers could marry each other's wives, or you could also learn that they don't marry each other's wives. Toshma, shnei achim te'umim gerim. They're twins. Now, when they're twins, it also clearly shows that they share a father as well, because you can't be twins if you don't share a father. If they have two different fathers, they're clearly not going to be twins. Rashi says, "Shnei achim te'umim tahani vade achem ninu min ha'av." These brothers must share a father as well as a mother. The kaimelon tipa achasi. It's one tipa of zera umischalekes l'shtayim, and it splits into two. I guess that's how you get identical twins. Afilu hachi loy cholten v'loy miyaben. They don't do chalitza or yibum. So tashma shnei achim te'umim gerim v'chem shechorim loy cholten v'loy miyaben. They don't do chalitza, they don't do yibum, and the ain't chayovin mishum eshesach, and there's no isser of eshesach. And Rashi says, afilu kitchoy la'arash niskayu, even if they married, these two brothers married after they became gerim, the gerish and niskayer, the cotton shenay ladami, because they're not brothers anymore. So therefore, they're not brothers, and it's not called their brother's wife. And therefore, but what if when both these boys were born, they were born Jewish? So then, they don't do chalitza or yibam. Rashi says it's yibam in ha'av, because yibam is dependent on the father. These don't have av, the zera mitri kebehema, because they were conceived when the mother was not Jewish. They were not Jewish when they were there conceived. So therefore, they don't have a din of achim and av so there's no misasibum. But they do have an Isra Beishazach. There's a Chiv Karish, Mishum Beishazach, Rashi says, because it's been an aim. The Isra Beishazach applies even if they share a mother. And when they were both born, in fact, they shared a mother. Since she was Jewish when she gave birth to both these boys, so these boys are considered to be Achim and Aim. If they, even when they were both conceived, the mother was Jewish, then then these are full Jews. It says in the case where they were conceived before but born after, it says Ein Chayavin Mishum Eishesach. In the first case, when they were conceived b'kedusha, but afterwards when they were conceived as goyim and then they were born, it says there's no chiyuv eishesach. Chiyuv aleka. It just seems to say that they're not chayiv kares. Ha yisur ika, but it's mashma there is an isur, so that will be shver on Rav Acha who hold that it's mutter. So who adin da'afilu yisur amileka. Really, there's the Brayshas doesn't mean to insinuate that there's no chiyuv kares, but it's still also. In fact, it's mutter for them to marry each other's wives. So why did it just use a word of no, not chayiv? Why didn't it say it's mutter? But I did the boy lemisna seifa avol chayavin, because since in the seifa's case, when they were both born after the mother was Jewish, we say that they're chayiv al eishes ach tananami reisha and chayavin. You use the same language, but in fact in the reisha would agree to Abacha that it's mutter as well. Okay, let's stop over here. We'll be mamshech tomorrow. We're still a full block behind, so I'm going to have to come very on time tomorrow so that we can start catching up. Yes, Hashem will.